Hi, this is Karen Gordon, the Self-Healing Coach.
And this is Ann Baroque, Certified Nutritional Consultant and Naturopath.
So, Ann, I'm really excited that we're talking today because as we've been prepping for the Autoimmune Warrior Bootcamp, we've been having some really awesome conversations, and I keep wishing that we could tape them or record them in some way. Tape them, that's like the old-fashioned way. I'm a child of the 80s. Record them in some way so that people could hear them, because I think that, you know, we've been touching on some really interesting topics for people who have autoimmune illnesses. So I was thinking that we could be a little intentional about it, and today maybe talk about why do pharmaceutical drugs fall short when it comes to treating autoimmune conditions. So why don't we roll with that topic and see where it takes us?
Well, I think that's an excellent start, because I think we're always, in Western medicine, the way the paradigm is set up, it's more about acute crisis management, and for chronic diseases, it's symptom management. So what that means is that we're basically going to a doctor when finally we cannot handle what we've been feeling, whether it's pain, whether it's inflammation, whether you've got a wound, whatever's going on with the body.
Right.
And unfortunately, we're not getting to the deeper levels of what got us there in the first place, because where we fall short is we go to the doctor, we usually get a diagnosis, and we get a prescription. And let me just be clear, I'm not anti-Western. I think drugs are great. Trauma surgery, certain cases, you need things like that. But what we're really missing is getting to the root cause, which is infection and inflammation in the body. And that is cumulative based on certain factors that we can go into more depth about. But when you start to get to the root of what actually makes us up, what we eat, if we're exercising, how we manage our stress, how we're downloading environmental toxicity. These are the things that brought us to those places of having autoimmune disease in the first place. And so basically what we want to do is decongest the body. We want to clean up the environment inside. And that is something that Western medicine doesn't provide. That's what a pharmaceutical doesn't provide. Because I tell people we're not deficient in Prozac or any of those things, but we might be deficient in fatty acids, vitamins and minerals, and so the key is getting to what we're made of and cleaning out some of the inflammation and infection.
So let me ask you this then: how come doctors aren't trained on this stuff? Like, why don't they know this? Infection and inflammation, like, it's pretty basic, right?
Well, I think we agree on inflammation. We're getting there, but I think what we're not is they're not trained in a way that goes after some really basic concepts that, if you go back before Western medicine existed, everything was based on naturopathy, and we used to have homeopathy and acupuncture and things. And so I think some of it has been the schooling and the training. I mean, in most medical schools, nutrition is still an elective. And even if they do get nutrition, it's a poor nutritional base. I'm always amazed when I get an autoimmune condition in my office of like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, and they will go to the top specialist and literally say to them, your diet has nothing to do with why your gut's inflamed.
Yeah.
I want to fall off the chair, because to me, it's as simple as that's not really far out things, that's chemistry. What you put in your body is chemistry, and so if it's trash in, it's going to be trash out eventually.
Right, and it's so basic. And I know, I mean, the same thing happened to me when I went to the neurologist as soon as I got diagnosed with MS, actually before I found you, and I said to him, I want to try diet and see how that goes. Or maybe actually it was probably right after I found you if I said that. And I remember he very definitively was like, diet has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and the sad thing about that is, I guess when you say the word diet, it feels like that's not strong enough to conquer MS. That's not strong enough to put, scleroderma to bed. The point is that it is, because it's really the foundation of what we are. And people don't realize that it's not 6 months of eating ding-dongs. It's 10 to 15 years of enjoying brownies and having a glass of wine and having periods of stress. So it's cumulative inflammation and infection that builds up. Right. And so one of the most powerful steps that anyone can do immediately to start to remove this infection inflammation is change the diet. It is the most powerful tool. It's something you don't have to go get a prescription for. It's something you can implement immediately.
And so, because most people are so brainwashed, really, to think that if they have a sickness, they need a medication, how do you how do you go about, convincing someone otherwise? Especially, and I'm going to use MS as an example just because that happens to be what I'm most familiar with because it's what I have. But, I think this is true for any autoimmune illness. In the MS community, the drugs are king. I mean, if you don't take the drugs, it's like, it's just, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I think fear is one of the first things that come up when it comes to drugs, because when you get a diagnosis, particularly for an autoimmune condition, you're overwhelmed. And the arsenal that we have in Western medicine is to prescribe. So if you go against that, that means it's very deep within yourself to say, wow, I can do something different. And I think, you have to do the education, because in the case of MS, if you do the research, there's only 30% efficacy in the MS drugs. And that means high cost, high side effects for very short-term gain or maybe long-term gain. We don't know. But the fact is, we go back to, you have to make that decision based on what you feel. And when you become more educated to really understand how the body becomes compromised, I think you'll realize that drugs are not really the first choice that you want to go to. And as I said, I'm not an MD. I can't tell people not to take them or take them. But I usually find as they start to feel better, I watch them start to take themselves off that with, their physician's care with that or however they go about doing that. But I usually find that they're getting off these things because they feel better, and also the side effects. So we have just literally been brainwashed that that's what we do. We don't really focus on anything. We take a drug and hope for the best. And I think there is so much more that we can be doing to actually reverse and prevent conditions.
Right, and I actually wanted to ask you that because, you're on the front lines, you're working with people every day with autoimmune conditions, and you're treating them not with pharmaceutical drugs. So I think this is probably a good last question to finish this off is, what are you seeing? Are you seeing that people are getting better without pharmaceutical drugs? Is it working?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing this for 13 years. I wouldn't stay in this business if I didn't see enough success. I don't have that kind of constitution. So the fact is, yes, all the time. And oddly enough, the ones that come in with the majority of drugs are people with rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. I mean, from everything from antidepressants to anti-anxieties to for the pain. And these people literally will come in with 10 to 13 medications in their system, and by the time we're done, they're in nothing. I mean, those are remarkable cases to watch from beginning to end because it's amazing. So some of these other conditions only have, corticosteroids or immune suppressants, so there's only a couple that you're integrating. But some of these conditions, they just, it's full prescriptions all across the board.
Right, and the reason
so,
for that,
yes.
And the reason for that is because they are treating symptoms, they're not treating the root cause, and so this is really the essential point, is that what you're doing is you're treating the root cause, and what the doctors are doing is they're treating symptoms because they're not thinking in a holistic way. They don't know how to approach autoimmune disease.
Absolutely. It is about getting to the root cause, and the fact is our bodies have never lost the intelligence how to heal. We forgot that point. And so if you clean up the environment for a long enough period of time, the body will heal. And we need to relearn that.
Right. And that's what we're going to be teaching people to do in the autoimmune boot camp.
Absolutely. We're going to teach you all those elements and more.